Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only stream, to the social media sites where we simulcast the radio show every morning on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and, of course, links to the podcast where you can listen to it and download it later as well. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to our favorite day of the week, the one day a week where we get a chance to focus on 2A issues and talk about the Second Amendment and gun rights, gun culture, and so much more. Oh man, we got a big show lined up for you today. It's been a while, but we're about to talk with one of my good friends from way back in the day. We've been talking for years. Haven't chatted with him in quite a while, but we are ready to go here in just a second with David Codrea from the WarOnGuns.com. And he, of course, also writes for Ammoland. He writes for the Firearms News. He's written for Guns Magazine in the past. He's also one of the folks that broke the whole gun walker scandal, what you probably know as the Fast and Furious issue with the Obama administration. He's a brave journalist, and he's out here to talk with us today a little bit about the fate or the direction of the gun culture and the Second Amendment movement under the new Trump administration. Is it all bells and is it all caviar and roses, or is it is there more to it? We'll see what David Codrea has to say about that. In hour 2, we're going to be covering some headlines and some of the other things that are going on around the country. including more malfeasance by the ATF and some other stuff in England. And I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on out there. We'll have some discussions on that. And then, of course, as always, we'll finish up our Friday with a little bit of a lighter side. We'll have our entertainment review along with the movies and streamings for the weekend from Willie Waffle. So that's going to be coming up at the end of the show today. But let's just get started. Let's peel right into it, shall we? And get rolling with David Codrea. Again, you can find him over at WarOnGuns.com. That's his blog. He's got a lot of good information over there, and it's a clearinghouse for anything related to the Second Amendment and more. David Codrea joins us this morning to start our discussion on the Second Amendment and more. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Michael, it seems every time I come on your program, it's colder in Ohio than it is in Alaska. I checked the weather this morning, and we were 10 degrees colder than Fairbanks.
I know, it's crazy. And then Fairbanks too. At Fairbanks, we haven't talked in quite a while, but I moved down to the banana belt of Alaska. I'm down on Homer, which is down in the Gulf, and it's a lot warmer here. But yeah, I know. Hey, David, they were having snowball fights on Bourbon Street the other day, right? And we have almost no snow, so it's one of those weird weather things. I mean, who knows? It's kind of crazy around here.
Yeah, I have a sister in Jacksonville, Florida, and a son in San Antonio, Texas, and they both got snow. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, what do you get? It doesn't matter where you move, you're going to get caught. That's what's going to happen right now. David, it's good to talk with you, my friend. It's been quite a while since we've had a chat. We've been really busy for everyone, I guess. And I was just thinking about you the other day and invited you on because, man, we need to catch up. You and I have had some discussions in the past on it. And now that we've passed this historic election, the election of Trump, to the confusion of many on the left and progressive sides, they don't know how it could happen. But he spoke to certain things that I think a lot of Americans were feeling. And part of that had to do also not just with the economy, although I think that was the major component of it. Part of it also had to do with this continuous attack on gun owners and Americans. And he made some pretty big promises. Now, I voted for Trump, but I also was very concerned about a lot of his commentary that he's had over the years. Prior to when he was president, when he wrote in his book, and he was all about waiting periods and other things. And then later on, when he made some other comments during the Parkland shooting about, red flag laws and just taking the guns and worrying about due process later, for which I've been chastised on this program by some of the listeners that I just don't understand. He's playing fifth dimensional chess or something else. But I know you have some of the same concerns. You've been writing about it. Your latest piece over at Ammoland was talking specifically about this, where he could lead the fight against the Second Amendment, and now it's his time to deliver. So tell me what David Codrea feels like is going to be the answer. Is he going to be the Second Amendment champion that we hope for or need? Because in his last term, his track record seems to be a little spotty. I'm not chastising. I'm just a little concerned.
We are waiting to see. And every day I check the new White House website, and it has the list of all of his executive actions. And so far we've got 5 pages of executive actions. The thing is just loaded. And yet we have to wait and see if he's going to put anything up concerning the Second Amendment. I've got the link up this morning on WarOnGuns.com, asking people to check that link time throughout the day to see if he says anything. The only movement we've seen is there have been stories breaking about the Office of Gun Control, the Kamala Harris Office of Gun Violence Prevention, I think it was called, that portion of the White House website being taken down. I still have not seen an official announcement about that. I mean, the entire website has changed. There's no page on the Constitution yet, and the things that we've come to expect. So we're going to have to see, because you're absolutely right. He made some grandiose campaign promises about our beautiful Second Amendment that seemed to fly in the face of a lot of his actions during his first administration. And again, you're right. We have to be able to point these things out. What I get back from the short-sighted is, well, would you rather have Kamala Harris? And no, of course I wouldn't rather have Kamala Harris. what I would rather have is I would rather have the expectations that MAGA voters came to expect based on campaign pledges. And one of the campaign pledges was we were going to see Second Amendment action from the administration in the first week, maybe even on the first day. I'm hoping that we see things like this. And one of the other problems is that with the nomination of Pam Bondi as Attorney General, in Florida, she had a real record of standing up for gun control against the right to keep and bear arms.
Right.
She was a proponent of red flag laws. She was a proponent of waiting until you're 21 to be able to exercise your Second Amendment rights. And she didn't back away from any of that. And in the hearings, I was disappointed that not one Republican senator going through the confirmation process asked her a question about the Second Amendment. They left that up to the Democrat gun grabbers. And while she did not fall in the trap of promising them that she would go after specific infringements, she did indicate that she was going to enforce the law. And my suggestion on that is that the supreme law of the land is what the Attorney General needs to be enforcing. And the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights are integral parts of the supreme law of the land. I would like to see a Justice Department protect the Second Amendment the same way it would be committed to protecting civil rights against state violations.
Right.
And here you even get pushback on this, Michael. Well, what about states' rights? What about federalism? Well, states don't have the rights to be tyrannical. They all joined the Union. They all agreed that the Constitution was the supreme law of the land, and a state can't go in and violate the law against cruel and unusual punishment or self-incrimination or prevent you from speaking your mind or practicing the religion of your choice. There is no reason why the Second Amendment needs to be a second-class right.
No, and I agree. I think the Pam Bondi thing, although she does have some admirable qualities in other areas, this is an area that I was seriously concerned about because of her track record. She was a strong supporter of red flag laws in Florida, and came out. And then with that answer, it was ironic that it was Democrats that ended up asking her questions about gun control and gun stuff with the ATF and other things. And it was irritating because you're right. Her answer was, I will support the law of the land, basically. I will enforce the law of the land. But the problem is, if the law is unjust, if the law is unconstitutional, you have a duty, not just a responsibility, but an actual duty per your sworn oath to see that that law is undone or to not enforce it if it is unconstitutional. And she had some opportunities there to talk a little bit about it. And you're right. The Republicans, I know they're doing a victory lap because they've got the majorities and they're happy and everything's going on, but don't be like the Newt Gingrich majorities in the 90s and just waste it. And that seems to be, I'm concerned that they could be on track to do that because they had an opportunity to highlight some of the abuses, some of the problems, some of the issues that have been coming out of the ATF for years, decades. And yet they didn't take that opportunity to put it in front of her, to put the softball in front of her and let her wind up and just smash it over the fence. She could have done that, but they didn't. And I'm concerned that they didn't do it because they were afraid of her answer.
Well, here's the thing. We are on new ground now with the Supreme Court opinion in Bruin. Okay. And now the standard is text, history, and tradition. And with that, a lot of the infringements that we're seeing clearly are unsupportable. A lot of existing law is clearly unsupportable because it did not exist at the time of the ratification of the Constitution. And a lot of the state laws are clearly, and here's another area that I think that when I say, people are objecting on the grounds of federalism and states' rights, the states are just piling on. And they're banning this and they're banning that. They're going after our semi-automatics. They're going after magazines. We're waiting to see if the Supreme Court in conference is going to hear about the challenge to the Maryland quote unquote assault weapon ban or the the Rhode Island magazine ban.
Yeah, Delaware and Rhode Island.
Yeah,
right.
what is it? Snope and Ocean State Tactical. And so we're waiting to see what they're going to have to say about that. I just submitted an article to Ammoland. It's not published yet, but there's this idiot politician in Washington State who wants to force insurance with penalties and like $1,000 per gun and all these requirements that are clearly unconstitutional. But the states can continue to do this, and what the gun community has to do through its organizations is scrape together the nickel and dime contributions from the same people that contribute all the time and try to fight states with unlimited resources virtually, our own tax dollars. And this is where the Justice Department, with its unlimited resources, could come in under the new doctrine of Bruin and start saying, wait a minute, you guys are violating the rights of the citizens.
Right. Well, this is another version of lawfare, right? I mean, we're seeing lawfare at various levels. We saw lawfare against Trump. We've seen lawfare in various states against elected officials and more. This is lawfare against gun owners because, again, they've got the 10,000-pound club. They've got the unlimited pockets to be able to, we'll put up any law we want, and then they'll have to fight it out in the courts. We know that a Supreme Court battle costs upwards of $2 million if you're going to try and pay for it out of pocket. We found that with the John Sturgeon case here in Alaska. It cost him $2 million to fight the U.S. government up to the Supreme Court. He won, but you're out $2 million. What gun owner has got that kind of pocket change running around to fight a law that is blatantly unconstitutional, but has to be fought all the way up to the Supreme Court? It is a form of lawfare and oppression.
And even when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, you have inferior courts going ahead and thumbing their nose at it and allowing things to proceed, even though the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear what it is. And there's no punishment, no accountability. No one ever has to have a personal stake in the game, and they can continue to harass and continue to harass. And what it reminds me of is the old bullet fee, which various tyrannies, Iran and I believe China, have imposed it in the past, where they would execute a prisoner and they would charge the family for the bullet that they used to execute the prisoner with. And this again, they're making the same gun owners that are fighting them finance their infringements and their protracted court battles. Meanwhile, these things drag on for years and years, and they get a decision, they don't like it, and they appeal it, and that goes on for years and years. And what did Martin Luther King, say when he was quoting? I forget what he was quoting in his letter from Birmingham jail, where about a right delayed being a right denied.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, 100%. David Codrea is our guest. WarOnGuns.com is his website. He writes for Ammoland and Firearms News. You can check him out there. We're going to continue with him here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio, free-thinking gun radio today, because it is Firearms. Say it with me. Firearms, TGIFF. That's what we're saying today. We return with David Codrea in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're in the commercial break right now. David Codrea from the War on Guns blog comes on and joins us. David, man, long time no see, and I know we probably should have had a call ahead of time just to see how things were going. But it's been a couple of years since we've had you on the program. Lots have happened since then. Just to catch you up to speed, in case you were watching the chat room or something, talking about it, I bought 4 radio stations down in the lower peninsula of Alaska, and we moved down here and we stood them up, and we're working down here now. We just moved down here about 2 months ago, so it's been a busy last 8 months for me, and so I apologize for not reaching out to you sooner. I know you've been busy writing lots of stuff. I'm still following you, just we haven't had a chance to chat.
I've been busy and had a lot of changes myself. In case anybody's wondering about what this pink thing behind me is, I haven't started worshiping pyramids or anything like that. I've got a new 2-year-old granddaughter, and this is her princess tent where we have our tea set, and you have tea with her, and it's like, boy, she sets it up, and it's not an invitation. You are going to drink the tea. All right?
That's right. You will drink the tea. No matter, you're going to spill the tea and drink the tea with Grandpa. Isn't that great? Is it your first grandchild?
Yeah.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I mean, I got one that just turned 7, and it's amazing. They spent a good 6 months. My daughter's husband was deployed to Korea for a bit, so she stayed with us for about 6 months with the new baby, and it's just amazing when you get to see that. It's a true joy. So congratulations, and good luck, Grandpa, on all that tea. It should be fun.
Yeah, well, the big problem is that, I'll be playing with the tea set, and my wife will come in and she'll chastise me and tell me to let the kid have a turn. So,
well, that's true. That's true. They've got the best toys. We gotta check it out. David, and it's funny because you and I have shared some of the same concerns over the last few years about Donald Trump and some of his things. Again, I voted for him. He was obviously the better of the two choices out there. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Definitely a better choice. But I think it's still our responsibility as citizens and gun owners to question the actions of people, even if we believe, 85 or 90% of what they believe in. If they're doing something that we believe is wrong or that we're concerned that they could do, we still need to bring that up.
Yeah, the whole business of just trusting them to do things when we see them making obvious mistakes and deviating. And Trump is a guy who is going to do what he wants to do regardless. It's the ego thing. Okay. You can't take away from the guy the successes that he's had. We're seeing a real good movement on the border right now from him, but we can't let it just stop with the criminal aliens at this point, when we're talking about upwards of 30 million in this country that the Democrats are trying to put on a pathway to citizenship, which will result in basically a permanent, unchallengeable Democrat majority to reappoint a whole new Supreme Court, reverse the Bruen decision entirely, revert the Second Amendment back to what they want to call a collective right, and do whatever the heck they want to do with their newfound voters, which all polls and the California experience and everything else shows us are going to be 80% Democrat for at least a generation or two, which means by then it's going to be too late to put things back. The genie can't go back in the bottle. So, and so then when you have Trump come out the other day and say, well, he doesn't want H-1Bs just for the tech workers, but, also, maitre d's and sommeliers and even waiters. You guys got a hotel, and I'm thinking, well, how about your maids? And they can all join the SEIU, which is a communist supporting Democrat union. And what are you trying to do to us? It's the cheap labor Republicans trying to save a buck at whose expense?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a problem when you talk out of both sides of your mouth, or, Trump's a developer, and it's the art of the deal. He will say whatever you want to hear. I think in whatever given room, he'll say it. And that's the thing. All right, hold on. We're about to rejoin. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
What the hell is an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right. All protection guns. No murder guns, no attack guns. I'm sure David has no attack guns in his armory or his vault or whatever it is. I'm sure they're all protection guns. I had them physically checked. They all say protection guns on them. David Codrea, WarOnGuns.com is where you'll find him and his writing, including links to the Firearms News and to Ammoland, where he writes every week or so on various topics and covers a lot of things. You mentioned Brune, David, and we really haven't had a chance to talk since Brune was decided. When you add Heller and you add McDonald and then you add Brune, it is almost the perfect triumvirate to protect and to basically reverse a lot of the gun control that we've seen over the years. Brune was probably the most important decision since the 1934 U.S. v. Miller NFA decision, which was a bad decision for gun owners. This is in the opposite direction, probably the best decision in nearly 100 years for the gun culture.
Yeah, and Brune has far-reaching implications beyond the Second Amendment, because if we really want to return to what the founders' understanding was at the time the Constitution was drafted and debated and ratified, we have to look at so many laws where the federal government has just gone so far outside the scope and the boundaries and the chains that were imposed on them through the Constitution. And it's just like they've ignored it and they've usurped for themselves new powers. And we see not just ATF creating rules where they don't really have any constitutional authority to do that. We see federal agencies all through the entire monstrous labyrinth. What do you call it? It's like the Borg cube in Washington, D.C., and it's unnavigable how labyrinthine and just all-encompassing it is. There's no aspect of our lives. And I forget the congressman, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but was not able to ascertain how many federal laws there are. The government can't even tell us how many laws there are, but if they want to, they can sure find one to prosecute us with.
Right. There's something like in the U.S. code, there's something like 22,000 separate regulations that have to do with firearms. 22,000, from imports to sales to tariffs to taxes to whatever. How could you could be busting a law? And in fact, there was a book written, I think it was John Fund, I can't remember who wrote it. It was called 3 Laws a Day. The average American breaks 3 laws a day and doesn't even know it. In pure ignorance, they do that. When you have such a monumental amount of laws that you're literally busting 3 laws a day without even knowing it, that's a problem. Because then, as you said, was it Marx or Lenin who said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime, or I'll find the crime"? I mean, that's the thing. When you can pick any crime, pick any person out and say, "I can find a crime that you've committed," that's a problem, especially here in the land of the free.
Yeah, that I believe was Lavrentiy Beria, who was Stalin's secret police chief, and exactly right. We are living in a tyranny, because just forget the 22,000 federal laws. Now multiply that by all the states that have mirror laws on the books and municipalities that have their own duplicative, triplicative, quadruplicative laws. And there's nowhere that you can turn. If you want to take a look at all the gun-free zones in this country, one of the little exercises that I wish I had the graphic skills to put this together. Okay, you take a map of the United States, and we've all seen the red-blue map that shows the different counties and things like that. But now what you ought to do is you ought to take a map of the United States and put all the post offices on it. These are all gun-free zones. Now take a map of the United States with that on it and put every school on it. These are all gun-free zones. And you start adding all the gun-free zones into it. I would like to see somebody with the graphic ability put together a map that encompasses all of that and show us what the land of the Second Amendment really looks like.
Right. Well, and we've talked about the danger, of course, of gun-free zones. We don't call them gun-free zones around here. We call them target-rich environments, because that's what they are. You see time and time and time again, we've had Dr. John Lott on the program, and he's talked specifically how about a significant portion of mass shooters who have left a manifesto or a journal, or they can go back and track how they were planning it out. A vast majority of them, somewhere upwards of 70%, have specifically mentioned the targets that they're going to being gun-free zones, because they don't want to be attacked. They don't want to have people be able to fight back. And of course, many of these are looking for as massive a body count as they can get to get their moment of fame, and they don't want to be stopped. And so that's another thing, you know. Well, and of course, the Greenville Mall shooting was a perfect example of that. The young man there who stopped that shooter dead in his tracks, literally, was in a gun-free zone. And yet, even then, you saw the mall issue a statement congratulating the citizen on stopping it and saving their customers. So, I mean, it's a ridiculous situation. But I'm hoping that Brune, with Heller and McDonald backing it up, it will continue to be this new wave of movement, like you said, going back to original texts, historical parallels, and things like that. This could be that shining moment where, if we use it right and we leverage it, it could be the greatest time for restoration of gun rights in this country's history.
And a lot of that depends on the new administration and the new attorney general, when they, finally decide to roll up their sleeves and get serious about this. What is it that they're going to do? I'd like to see some assurances. And unfortunately, we don't appear to have the president's ear. We had it when he was on the campaign trail and he needed us. And I went to a great outdoor show. I forget what it was called in Pennsylvania. And he came and spoke to us there. I got to sit with the journalist section, which turned out to be a mistake. I should have just got in with the regular crowd, because I was blocked by the stand with all the cameras, so I couldn't see a damn thing. Okay. Right. But he made all the promises about our beautiful Second Amendment, and everybody was just cheering. Every time the guy said something, they just cheered like this is the greatest thing they've ever heard. And now he's in office, and we see the inauguration. And here's one thing I thought about the inauguration. I haven't seen anybody else comment on this. He had all these tech billionaires there, people that have worked against the administration and against gun owners. He had the head of Google, which with its algorithms discriminates against Republicans and discriminates against gun owners. He had Mark Zuckerberg, who basically was financing a campaign against him with Meta. He had Jeff Bezos with his Washington Post, who terrifically anti-gun, and yet what he didn't have in the room that I saw was any of these gun owners for Trump that they made a big public relations release about before the election, about all these prominent gun owners, gun rights leaders throughout the country who were part of this organization called Gun Owners for Trump. And where were any of them at the inauguration? Where is any indication of the Second Amendment so far in the executive actions that we're seeing? And here's what my hope is for Gun Owners for Trump, because even though it appears to have been a campaign thing for him to do, it could be an effective organization if they gave them the same weight as Biden gave this Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which has apparently since been disbanded, but that was headed by Kamala Harris. Now, if you had Gun Owners for Trump and it had the appropriate weight and respect given to it, to where it was headed by J.D. Vance. Okay? Kamala can do the other one. Why can't J.D. Vance? Why can't we get, some prominent, nationally recognized gun rights leaders, including GOA, including NRA. I know people are going to say, "Oh, it's NRA," but you know what? They're there, including SAF, including NAGR, including maybe guys like you. Maybe guys like you. I mean, you're a big voice in the thing, and these are people that could then advise the president and have his ear through J.D. Vance and let him know what the priorities are, let him know what the legal cases are that are of concern, let him, maybe stop him before he says something stupid like take the guns first and go through due process second, and advise on all counts if we only had the president's ear. And that's what I'm afraid I have not seen yet. And that's what I am basically the only one out there that I know of right now that's waving that flag. And I'm going to keep waving that flag because I want to see gun owners for Trump turn into the Office of Second Amendment Protection.
And that's exactly what I was just going to say. Instead of the Office of Gun Violence, how about the Office of Second Amendment Protection? Because that's exactly right. What we're looking for here is accountability from the president, right? Because as I said in the break, you know, the president is a developer. He's a land developer. That's his background, right? He's the art of the deal. He's the guy that walks into the room and says whatever the room wants to hear to get the deal done. Doesn't necessarily mean he believes it, but that's part of his negotiation style. And I think that's where we saw some of this stuff come out before his comments on the taking the guns and worrying about due process and everything else. He was in the room with a bunch of law enforcement who were worried, and he was just saying what he wanted. But we need to hold him accountable for his words and his actions. And he's made a lot of promises. He's made a lot of promises on this second term after not really delivering on the first term. And so all we're looking for, it's not a criticism, it's just accountability. That's what we're looking for, is accountability to what he needs to do, because shall not be infringed is a pretty strong statement. I mean, there's nowhere else in the Bill of Rights where it says it so stridently that it says shall not be infringed, period, end of sentence. And we have gone through, like we said, 22,000 regulations on the books related to firearms at some point. And we need somebody who will walk some of that back, who will reverse some of the tyranny that we've seen being put on lawful law-abiding citizens over the course of the last, at least 100 years. And I'm hoping that between Bruen, between the other court cases and the new president and the majority, that we may see some changes here. You got 60 seconds before we have to hit the break.
Yeah, well, we also have to make sure that our expectations are tempered. Trump is not the dictator. He can't just wave his hand and make national reciprocity or hearing protection the law of the land. These things have to go through a legislative process. And when we come back, if we come back, I have a few thoughts on that.
Yep, we'll be back. One final segment dead ahead. David Codrea is our guest. You'll find him at WarOnGuns.com. If you don't go there, check it out. Get the feed. You'll get your daily dose every day of, he's always linking different stories and everything else. Plus, you can read his writing at thefirearmsnews.com and Ammoland.com. Go out and check it out. I always like to go to David's website and click on the Only Ones tag sometimes just to check it out a little bit. It's some interesting stuff. You should go see it. We'll be back with more. David Codrea, our guest on Firearms Friday, the Michael Duke Show.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, commercial break right now. Just you, me, and 60 of our closest friends on the internet between Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. David, what are you working on these days? I mean, obviously you're doing your writing and anything else. Any special projects going on or things that folks out there would be interested in knowing?
Well, I'm first of all, I'm waiting to see what Trump does, because by Monday, if I don't see any action, or based on the actions I see, I want to write an article for Firearms News and basically cover that. I think that that's a real priority. I've got a couple different Freedom of Information Act requests out there that we're pursuing, and some that we're blue skying that I'm not ready to talk about yet. But that's always action that goes on behind the scenes. So we'll challenge the Department of Justice, and we'll say, hey, how come the FBI is allowing New York State to do NICS checks for ammunition purchases when nowhere in the law does it say that NICS can be used for ammunition? Okay? Right.
That's an unlawful use of federal resources, by the way, just in case you're
and so we're trying to get some answers out of that. And I'm hoping, again, with the new administration, with what it could do, is it could maybe stop a lot of the stonewalling on the FOIAs and a lot of the investigative reporting. When we saw Fast and Furious, okay, you mentioned that. And even with the House Oversight Committee, and the Senate Judiciary Committee asking questions, the DOJ was still stonewalling, and Eric Holder had to be held in contempt of Congress. And of course, nothing ever happened to him for that.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that with the new administration, we can maybe see some movement on that. But again, Michael, it's predicated on who has the president's ear. He's got his own priorities. Right now, he's worried about H-1Bs for sommeliers, okay, for Trump Tower. I mean, it's like it's kind of baffling for somebody down here at the ground level like me who has no access, and all I can basically do is scream at passing cars. Every once in a while, spit on their windshield and try to clean it off.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Sometimes you just feel like we're screaming into the void, like, hello, does nobody else see what's going on, kind of thing? And everybody's just kind of fat, dumb, and happy, blithely moving ahead. We see, I mean, there's so much opportunity here. And like I said, I keep likening it back to the contract for America, Newt Gingrich's push in the 90s, where they had this spectacular opportunity and they blew it. I mean, they just totally, absolutely blew it. And that is just so frustrating to watch, that, to see that going on. I just don't want a repeat of that. And I'm hoping that we can make the most of what we have right now, leverage this opportunity, because we know that history tells us that in the midterms, there's probably going to be a swing. There's a big, huge 85% chance that it's going to swing the other direction in the midterms, because that's how the electorate, they vacillate back and forth. So we've got a very finite window here to get this done. And we could really solidify the position of gun owners across the country if we did things like, prune down or defund or hell, eliminate the ATF, get the DOJ, protecting our rights instead of infringing on our rights, and so many other things.
Yeah, Republicans snatching defeat from the jaws of victory once more.
Yeah, well, again, there's a historical precedent for that, and there's a reason for that as well. You mentioned Gunwalker, you mentioned Fast and Furious. I mean, to me, it was just always amazing that really nothing came from that. There were so many players involved. There were so many players at high level. I mean, Hillary Clinton in the State Department and Holder and Obama himself. I mean, knowing these things and getting people killed and intentionally giving guns to cartel members. And yet there was just no accountability. And in fact, it was the reverse of accountability, because the gun stores that cooperated with the ATF were then later thrown under the bus as if they were the bad guys in doing all these things at the direction of the ATF. It really was. It was a dark time in America, and I'm still. Has there ever been anything else since then?
No, and those of us that were in at the ground level and that were pushing things and uncovering new things, we never had access to the media, and the media just basically kind of ignored us. If you look at Fast and Furious today, you'll still see the words botched gun sting associated with it. It wasn't a botched gun sting. You didn't try to track the weapons to, who the cartels were. You let them go wild across the border and keep on going to, until they're found at a crime scene next to a body. So that then you can say, well, see, this was, at an American gun shop, and now we need more gun control in the United States.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I still remember the interview that I saw with one of the guys who's like, we begged them to please let us stop selling it to these people. And they're like, no, you're cooperating with us. You're doing a great job. And it wasn't 6 months later, they were out there at a press conference saying how bad these gun stores were for doing all this, even though they were doing it at the direct intervention of the AT. I mean, it's just, the state is not your friend. Exactly. That is the thing. That's the thing to remember. The state is not your friend. David Codrea, our guest. Let's jump back to it. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Those assault penguins, though, man. Oh, man, they're bad. Get one of those big emperor penguins, like 4.5 feet tall. Ooh, scary stuff. Welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Firearms Friday is the day, and we're talking with David Codrea from the WarOnGuns.com, where you can find his daily musings, links to other hot gun stories from around the country. You'll find a lot of stories there that you won't find anywhere else because they're just not picked up by the national media. And of course, he writes for Firearms News and for Ammoland as well. David, before we went to break, we were talking about kind of the future of where we were going. You said you had some thoughts and what we could do. Where are we at? Let's wrap things up here in this final segment.
Well, I'm basically now looking at the Republican Party, the Republican senators, the Republican Congress people, and what they're not doing, and also what they are doing. What they're not doing, we saw illustrated loud and clear in the Pam Bondi hearings when they didn't ask her a single question about the Second Amendment, even though National Campaign, notably led by Gun Owners of America, was urging its members and its supporters to contact their senators and to get a sense out of Pam Bondi that she was not going to be an enemy of the Second Amendment. And they didn't do that. And I've seen excuses made for that. Well, you can't go out there and get her to define what she's going to do on the Second Amendment because then they won't confirm her. Well, then you can't ask her anything. The Republicans, you just won, okay? Act like you won maybe for a change. And there are ways to couch the questions where you're not going to say, well, Miss Bondi, don't you agree with us that kindergartners should be able to bring machine guns to school? No, you don't ask questions like that. You ask questions about founding intent. You ask questions about the Bruin decision and text history and tradition. And you get a confirmation and an understanding that she knows what's going on with this and that she's not just going to be a robot for the state. And instead, what I do see Republicans doing is they're offering all kinds of grandiose bills. Okay, eliminate the ATF, nationwide reciprocity. That's great. Okay, first of all, Trump can't do that. Okay, he can't wave his hand and make that happen. But let's also temper our expectations. I know people aren't going to like to hear me say this, but take a look at the Republicans in the Congress and the slim majorities that they have. And now take a look at the Republicans like Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, who is endorsed by Giffords, for goodness sakes. There are Republican, the word I heard used for them is Vichy cons, like the Vichy French. And they're basically what other people want to call rhinos, Republicans in name only. But they're gutless, they're moderates, sometimes they're actually against us. They're voting for gun control. Look at the Republicans that turned on us for Biden's bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
Wait, are you talking about Lisa Murkowski of Alaska? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, you know what? That was, I tried like heck to help expose that, but I'm not in Alaska. But
yeah. Well, we know that's the problem, is that we know, and we're banging our heads against the wall like everybody else because they're out there. They are out there. We see that all the time. And yet what happens is the moderates or the liberals don't put up a good candidate, and they support the Vichy con, the rhino, whatever. They support them because they know that it's the stealth way to get what they want.
Yeah, and so then I see grandiose bills being proposed. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to eliminate the ATF. Well, eliminating the ATF, first of all, doesn't do any good unless you eliminate the laws that the ATF is enforcing. Okay, because otherwise you're just going to bury it into the FBI. And haven't we seen that the FBI is problematic in its own right? And now you're going to be able to bury it into a more insulated organization that'll be able to protect it better than just a small ATF is going to be able to do. So eliminating the ATF per se without eliminating ATF functions, really, I'm not sure. It's the devil you know versus the devil that you don't. And where do you really get ahead of us in the game? And the other thing that I see is we'll see people, oh yeah, he wants to do this. The congressman has a bill to do this or do that. And it's going to be great. It's going to be the best thing in the world for the Second Amendment. And then I go over to a site called GovTrack. And this is a legislative tracking site. And
right.
And you take a look at the bill, you take a look at who's got it, you take a look at the number of co-sponsors. You can find that the same bill has been proposed the last 10 years in a row and never gotten out of committee. And then you get down to the prognosis, you see it has a 1 or 2% chance of being enacted. And so I'm going, well, okay, you're getting all these great headlines and you're getting credit for being a champion of the Second Amendment. by proposing a bill that you know is never going to pass.
Political
so what kind of political game are we playing here? And meanwhile, gun owners are getting all excited and they're expending their resources and their energy trying to promote something that the very proponent of it, the very sponsor of it, knows is never going to happen. And they're just offering this up for political look at me reasons. Okay.
Right. No, it's political theater. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. A bill that we know has no chance of passing, but they can trumpet it from the rooftops. Look at me, beat their chest. Look at me. I've done a good job for you, knowing that it's not going to go anywhere. And as you said, the worst part is that the gun community is then expending, capital, political capital, volunteer time, treasure, money, and they're expending it on something that has no chance. Let's get down to the brass tacks, into the grassroots of what's really wrong here, and that is the law and the regulation. If you eliminated a lot of the regulation, it wouldn't matter that the ATF is as big as it is, because it wouldn't have the authority to do some of the things that, well, it still doesn't have some of the authority to do some of the things that it does, but it would have a lot less authority to do the things that are making headlines. And then you'd have the opportunity to dismantle or trim down or pare down what you've got going on.
Well, what it ends up boiling down to is, do gun owners have a voice with the Republicans and with the Trump administration?
Right.
And I'm going to keep beating this dead horse until, I guess my arms won't work anymore. But I truly believe that the office of Second Amendment protection needs to be established, where the president gets advised and the president makes his expectations known to his administration, and that the Republican Party itself gets behind it, and that it's almost like a frustrating thing, but we can't stop fighting. We have to keep exposing this, and unfortunately, we have to keep exposing this, even though some within our ranks then want to say, well, what are you criticizing the Trump for? Would you rather have Kamala Harris? And of course, the answer to that is no. We wouldn't rather have Kamala Harris. What we'd rather have is a constitutional republic as envisioned by the founders. And when we see our leaders straying from that path or missing opportunities that we think that they could have, we need to be able to point that out. And we ought to have a forum whereby we can have their ear and we can get that message to them. Because, as smart as Trump is and as informed as Trump is, he's got his niche and his milieu, and we've got ours. And there's things that we're going to know that he's not going to know. And how do we get this information to him and have it viscerally make sense to where he sees an advantage to himself? That's the other thing about the guy. There's got to be an advantage, to have Mark Zuckerberg come and kiss his ring, right?
Right. Well, and if you put him in a room that's full of gun owners or people from the gun culture, it'll also go back to what I was saying earlier. He'll say and do things to what he'll match the room. He'll read the room and match it. And if we keep doing that, we can hold him accountable by keeping him there. All right. We're down to about just under 2 minutes here, David. What's the future of the gun culture in America? Are we winning? Are we losing? Are we holding steady? Give us a 90-second, your final thoughts here as we wrap up.
I'm very, very optimistic that we've had things like the Bruin decision come forth under an administration that's probably the most anti-gun administration in history. And to see that come up, despite all their best laid plans, is a very hopeful sign to me. The other hopeful sign to me is that despite all the efforts to disarm the American people, there's a core of us that we will not disarm, okay, no matter what you do. And the fact that they haven't tried to go for the ultimate goal, and the ultimate goal is they want to have a monopoly of violence, and they haven't tried that, it's because they know they can't. And that, to me, shows that the Second Amendment is working.
Right. An implicit check on the tyranny of government, implied check. That's what it is. They're too afraid because they know in a nation of 400 million guns, that's going to be a near impossibility, or it'll be the bloodiest battle in history. One of the two, for sure. David Codrea, you can find him at WarOnGuns.com for his daily blog and posts, and you can also find him at Firearms News and Ammoland.com. David, thanks for coming in and joining us. We appreciate it.
Michael, always a pleasure. Thank you, and best of luck with your new stations, and look forward to talking to you again.
All right, hold the line. Folks, we got more coming up. Hour 2 dead ahead. We'll give you the final bite at the apple here, David. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think we are winning. We talk a lot on this program about the implicit check on government that the Second Amendment is. We laugh at the idea that there's 400 million. I mean, I personally think it's closer to 700 million guns in America. But you're talking about a country of 330 million people with, enough guns to give everybody 2 and let them march out the door. Obviously, it's not going to be that big a deal. But that's why we've seen things like the New York SAFE Act and some of the Connecticut assault weapons. That's why we've seen such a pitiful rate of compliance with those things in the single digits. And the cops aren't going door to door because they know what would happen. They know, and whether it's a constitutional or it's just a concern for their personal safety, they know. That is the beauty of the Second Amendment, is the ability for the people to say this far and no further.
Yeah, and no shot needs to be fired. It's just like if you have an assailant and you just display the gun, you don't have to take it any further from that. Okay, the survival instinct kicks in. They want easier prey, and when you take a look at even with your how many million gun owners there are in this country, if you just had 3% of them say no, this goes no further, it's larger than any force that the government can bring to bear.
Right, any standing force, military, law enforcement, whatever, it is a larger. And you're right, 100%. All right. Any final thoughts here, David, before I let you go? A couple minutes here. We've got, in case there's anything else you want folks to know about or things you're doing.
I think that I'm gonna knock it off. In case you haven't heard, I've been fighting a bronchial infection that I've had. It really laid me up for about a week, and I'm just now getting recovering from it. But I'm going to take a sip of coffee before I start coughing again. How's that? Okay.
Yeah. You go do your thing, David, and we'll catch up with you again soon. We'll bring you on more frequently. It's been a while, and with our new setup and video and everything, it's a lot of fun. So hopefully we can get you some more exposure out there. Folks need to go out there to War on Guns and read what they need. So do what you need to do, David. Thank you so much for coming on board. Happy New Year to you, and we will talk with you again soon.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on board. David Codrea. Again, WarOnGuns.com. If you're looking for his website, that's the place to go to get all the deets, get all the details over there. That's where you need to go. Great guest. It's been so long since I talked to David. He is such a cool cat. I love it. I love it. All right. How you guys been doing? I'm sorry, I have not been. I've been so focused on what David's been talking about. I really haven't been following much along in the chat room. Although I see Harold's in here saying, casting wild aspersions about police and all kinds of stuff going on. Anyway, it's going to be. Rob says, I did see this as it went by. Rob says, with half of Hispanic males voting for Trump, I'm not sure it'll turn into a Democratic majority. He was talking about when David was talking about the, bringing all the immigrants in and creating a lockstep Democratic majority. Maybe not. I mean, maybe this was a fluke. I don't know. This is only the beginning of the change. If this is a change in the trend, it's only the beginning of the change, Rob. And I agree that they voted for him in big time. And we saw a lot of change in Hispanics. We saw a lot of change in my other minorities as well. It doesn't mean that they are all monolithic and that they're all going to vote Democratic no matter what. But historically, that's kind of the way they've gone. So we have to see if this is a blip or if this is a new trend line. If it's a new trend line, then maybe we don't have as much to worry about. Otherwise, it's a problem. Let's go over here. Anthony said, idiot politicians. Is there any other flavor I'm aware of? Oh, man. I'm just scrolling backwards here. So much ice in the Matsu. Yeah, and you guys are about to get more. There was a weather alert this morning. I saw that. Let's see, what was the weather alert for you guys up in the Matsu? Here it is right here. Brand new weather alert for the Matsu borough. Here it is. Snow and rain. Freezing rain on top of cold snow covered roads. Heavy snow in Thompson Pass. Snow accumulation of 10 to 20 inches near Paxson. Copper River Basin, Moore, Tocina. I mean, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. Fairbanks, snow, mixed precipitation, and above freezing temperatures expected. Somebody said it was 37 degrees there earlier. Accumulation of 1 to 5 inches with snowfall likely, and then periods of mixed rain and snow continue through Sunday morning. And then Frank said, ever since I moved, he says ever since Duke's moved, it's gotten warmer. Well, it's because the weather follows me wherever. I noticed that when I left Fairbanks, there really has not been much of a cold winter since I left Fairbanks 10 years ago. You're welcome. That's all I'm saying. You're welcome. You're welcome for me doing all that. And now that I move further south, you're welcome. Okay, I see that he sent me a link on Facebook Messenger. Okay, I have to change. Apparently, I have to change profiles here to get that link there. Anthony, let me look at it here. See, oh, here it is, right here. Boom. Got to do it on my phone. Okay. All right. Well, we're getting ready to jump back into it here. Please like and share. Mahogany AR-15. Ooh, yeah, no, that's pretty sexy. The Woox store, WOOX store.com. Go check that out. That looks sexy right there. A mahogany AR-15. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for mine, and it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a two-way nature right here on the Michael Duke Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream and to our social media sites where we simulcast the show via video. You can watch the show, not just listen, but watch it on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Rumble. You can see this glorious beard in all its beardness every day if you want to. It's not that big a deal, but you could if you wanted to. And join the chat room and hang out with people there. All right, well, let me take just a moment here to do a little bit of housekeeping. First and foremost, I want to give you some of the weather alerts that are just coming up. Some of them weren't here when I got started because I checked them this morning. I check the weather alerts every morning just to make sure. But there's new weather alerts up in Fairbanks. You guys are under a winter weather advisory right now. Snow and mixed precipitation and above freezing temperatures expected. In fact, people are reporting in the chat room right now that it's 34 and raining in Fairbanks. Total snow accumulation of 1 to 5 inches as expected, with the snowfall likely to be in the higher elevations. Fairbanks and the surrounding hills are going to be impacted, and this goes on until 9 a.m. on Sunday. Travel could be difficult, and there's going to be periods of mixed rain and snow continuing through Sunday morning. So, and then, of course, Anthony mentioned in the chat room that it's supposed to be something like 40 below next week because schizophrenia with Mother Nature is a thing. Down in the Mat-Su, snow and rain, freezing on top of cold, snow-covered roads, heavy snow closer to Thompson Pass. They're expecting accumulation of snow in some of the big areas, including Paxson, 10 to 20 inches of snow near Paxson. A wintry mix of snow and rain is expected along the Richardson Highway. Precipitation will be heavy at times. Snow and the predominant precipitation type near Thompson Pass will be rain and more. It's just going to be nasty. This is supposed to go through Sunday and into Monday. And, of course, there's a flooding advisory down here on the South Central. We've had so much rain. They're expecting more flood advisories. And, of course, the roads in various areas, depending on where you are nasty because there's ice on top of it with rain and more. It was yesterday. I had to dig the ice cleats out again because it was taking your life in your own hands just to walk across the driveway here. So it's definitely, and winds too, by the way, high winds down here. So, just a little bit of everywhere. So that's the first bit of housekeeping. Secondly, you folks up in Fairbanks, plug your ears for a minute. If you're listening to the show on KPEN or its associated translators across the peninsula or up in Delta or down on Unalaska, Dutch Harbor, wherever you are, today is the final day to place your vote on our poll on Facebook. Our poll on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/ChetFM, C-H-E-T, ChetFM. And you can make your poll as to whether or not you would like to hear Charlie Kirk right after my show. Because it's been music. It's me. It does my show, and then it's music all day with Chris Story in Tuesdays and Thursdays. But previously, before I took over, they used to have Charlie Kirk on right after me before they went to music. And a lot of people were upset that we took Charlie Kirk off the air on the music station. And I did it because it was a music station, and that's why. But I figured our shows were local, so that would at least have a time. But I'm hearing from a lot of people about wanting Charlie Kirk back on KPEN. So you can go to facebook.com/ChetFM, and it's the big purple post right at the top of the page, and you can tell me whether or not you want to hear Charlie back. If you don't do Facebook, you could send me an email, michael@myalaskaradio.com. That's michael@myalaskaradio.com. Send me an email and tell me whether or not you want Charlie Kirk back or if you just want to continue with the music. So tell me where you're at. We're going to make a decision over the weekend, and we'll have an announcement next week for that. So just because we're listening to the listeners, listening to the listeners sounds like a slogan from something. All right. I guess it's time to get into some of the headlines that are going on around the country. That's all the housekeeping that I have for today. Let's take a look at what some of the stories are that are going on around there. The White House Office of Gun Violence wasn't really about preventing gun violence. No, it was more about control. It wasn't really about, the violent crime, if they were really serious about stopping gun violence, they would stop including suicide numbers in all of that discussion, right? Because that's one of the things that they do to fluff up the numbers and to confuse people is that they conflate suicides with, the liquor store holdup where somebody gets shot or a school shooting. And they're just totally separate and different things. They both utilize the same tools, but they're totally separate and different things. And when they conflate those numbers, considering when you look at gun violence numbers and you realize somewhere around 65% of those that they're using these days are actually suicides, you understand that it's not really about crime. It's not really even about violence. It's about control. But the good news is the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention is gone. The CCRKBA, which is the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, is now congratulating Donald Trump for quickly following through on his promise to shut down the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Alan Gottlieb, who's the chair of that committee, said this gun control bureaucracy has no place in the White House and it should never have been created. Its supporters are having fits on the internet, which convinces us that President Trump's swift action is correct. It was already reported that the staff of this operation resigned prior to the transition of power, which suggests they knew what was coming, so they abandoned ship to avoid being fired. The office's webpage has now gone dark, and the Trace, gun control advocacy publication, it's a quote-unquote news publication, appears to acknowledge that it was really a policy outfit and coordinating hub for what amounted to gun control efforts by the Biden administration. And so it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I mean, that is good. So we'll give kudos where kudos are due right now to the president. He has delivered on that promise. But there's a lot of other things that, again, we need to be talking about. And I would be remiss if I didn't continually try to hold the president accountable for some of the promises and the assertions that he made on the campaign trail, that he's a stalwart warrior for the Second Amendment, that he didn't really mean it when he said he'd take the guns and worry about due process later and other things. So, I'm cautiously optimistic. That's where I'm going on this. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to see more movement on this. I really would have liked to have seen more. And the thing is, they could have made some hay here if they had really highlighted this. All they really did was take the office down, and the buzz is that the people have been either resigned or let go in that office, and then they took the website down. But they could have made a lot of hay if they'd highlighted this on the way out. If they had touted their own horn a little bit on this, they could have made some PR hay on this on the way out. But we're hoping. Here we are. We're coming up on a 1 week, right? This tomorrow or Monday will be 1 week from the inauguration. It sure would be nice to see another slew of executive orders that repeals and pulls back what can be pulled back in an administrative function, not because there's, certain things you just can't do in an executive order without it being challenged. I mean, they still may challenge it, but you don't want to do overreach. You don't want to waste time. But I'm hoping that there will be more coming out of the Trump administration on this for sure. But as it is right now, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention is no more. And I'm with David. David Codrea was our guest in the last hour. He writes for the Firearms News and for Ammoland, and he has his own site up. It's called WarOnGuns.com, WarOnGuns.com. And he said, we should change it from the Office of Gun Violence Prevention to the Office of Second Amendment Protection. And I think that would be great. I think Trump needs to be surrounded with real people who understand the intricacies and the ins and outs of the Second Amendment and why it's so important. And because, I think he's ambivalent. I think really, truly in his heart, he's probably ambivalent about it, and he could take it or leave it more than anything else. He's saying what he's saying because it was convenient and beneficial for him to say it. But I think probably personally, based on his prior writings and the things that have slipped out, that he's probably kind of ambivalent to it. I don't think he's necessarily anti-Second Amendment, but I don't think he's as pro as he has portrayed himself to be. So we need to make sure that we keep the pressure on to hold him accountable. And we'll be watching. We'll be watching as we go through here with this. But this is good news. And it would be great to have an Office of Second Amendment Protection in there as well. It is definitely an important step. The Supreme Court has yet to rule on the legality of Joe Biden's ATF rule treating buy, build, shoot kits as completed firearms. These are like the 80% lower kits that we're talking about. It may be a moot point if the president follows through with his promises and rescinds the order and directs the ATF to return to the status quo. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen that happen yet, but we're waiting. The last thing, of course, the anti-gunners want is that. And so they're going on. And again, the Trace is up to its scaremongering tactics over the issue, including trying to tie the shooting of that healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, to the ongoing crackdown on home-built guns. Here's what they wrote. The assassination jolted the public. While it didn't necessarily indicate that untraceable weapons will be becoming more prevalent, it did raise questions about the state of the ghost gun market. Was polymer 80's closure a sign that the market was shriveling up, or was it Hydra-like sprouting new heads? No, the closure of polymer 80's was because of the inexorable pressure of the Biden administration and bureaucrats in the ATF to shutting down what was a very successful gun business that allowed hundreds of thousands of Americans to exercise their Second Amendment rights. That had nothing to do with the market shriveling up. That had everything to do with regulation. The Trace goes on to say, law enforcement officials, small arms researchers, and ghost gun manufacturers who recently spoke to the Trace described the law enforcement gains against ghost guns as tenuous at best, especially in the light of the Trump administration's aversion to new regulation. Ghost gun technology, they warned, is only getting more sophisticated, and as a result, the weapons are becoming more appealing to criminals. Well, what would you rather do? Would you rather have to fiddle and fart around with a desktop CNC machine or some kind of filament 3D printer and wait around and, and finick it and, finesse it and build the parts and make sure that it worked and do all that kind of, because those things are just not like out of the box. They work, it's a homemade gun, right? It's finicky. It's not made to exacting tolerances and standard. You think that the criminals would really rather do that, or would they rather just go steal a real gun from somebody else? I mean, come on. They're losing the war against ghost guns, and hopefully the Trump administration will take a more strident stand on this through executive administrative action, which they are lawfully legally allowed to do. They can tell the ATF to go back to where they were before, or maybe even a little further back if we really, really, really wanted to, be part of it. All right, we got more coming up. Another story here in just a minute. The ATF, more shenanigans over DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We'll cover that here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Oh, and the stuff in the UK. That's the other one. Stuff in the UK. Things just get, no guns, but it just gets worse. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Hello, my friends. How are you? How are you guys doing this morning? Did you see yesterday that a military convoy had rolled over on the highway, blocked the Richardson Highway, and or the Parks Highway, and they recommended taking an alternative route? Yeah, I know, right? Right? And what alternative route is that? Oh, you want us to go through Paxson? You want us to go all the way around to the Glen High? Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, it's great. I would like to see the president repeal the NFA Act itself. Well, he doesn't. You can't just do that. He just can't. He could support or propose a bill. I suppose he could get some surrogates to propose a bill, and he could support it. That's not something that could be done through legislative action or through executive action, because it was a legislative act, right? I too, Gary, would like to see the NFA repealed. Anthony says, I always chuckle out loud when somebody starts claiming that criminals favor ghost guns. Like I'm so certain there's an $8,000 CNC rig sitting in the back room of the meth house cranking out Glock clones en masse. Yeah, exactly. This is not, again, this picture that they keep painting about how, these are, have you guys ever, has anybody ever out there ever built an 80% lower? I'm sure some of you have. It is a laborious process. It's not something, it could be done over a weekend if you dedicate a good chunk of the weekend to it, unless you've got a full machine shop with all the desktop tools and stuff like that. But if you're just doing it at home with, Dremels and lathes and drills and that kind of stuff, it's not an easy process. And quite honestly, it's not a precision piece of machinery usually by the time you're done. It's something that you're just proud of because you got it to work and it fires and it does. But if you got a choice of a $500 off-the-shelf, mass-made AR-15 and your ghost gun or your handmade 80% lower to protect, in a life and death situation, probably most of us would grab the mass production unit because, you just don't know. You just don't know. It is what it is. Brick says it doesn't take that long if you've got a mill. Well, yeah, that's what I said. If you've got if you've got a machine shop in your garage or, even a small, then yeah, you're right. 100% probably doesn't take too much. And yours is probably a lot more precision than guys like me who had a Dremel tool and a drill press and some sanding paper. And so that was the extent of our tools. Right. So probably yours is probably a lot more precision than what some of us have built over the years, for sure. Anthony said, I built one before a few years ago. Never again. I'll buy the damn rifle whole and eat the cost. Exactly. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun to do. It's an enjoyable thing to get into. But you have to, there's definitely an amount of skill and precision that goes into it. I just don't see a bunch of methed up gangsters, having the patience and the precision to be able to build a whole bunch of ghost guns. I just don't. It is a boogeyman. And again, that's why they call them ghost guns. Ghost guns. That's why they call them that, because they're trying to scare you. They're trying to scare you. Rick has all the things. Yeah. When I grow up and when I stop being a boy, when I grow up and be a real man, I will be like Rick and have all the things, all the tools in the garage. So if I want to walk out there and work on it, I can. That's hashtag life goals. Hashtag life goals. All right. If you haven't shared the show, would you do that right now? Would you hit the share button for me wherever you're watching? And if you haven't liked the show, which over half of you haven't liked the show, I don't know why, because I'm a good person. And you should like me. You should like this show. Please. Sharing is caring. All right. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do it all. Let's go to it. Here we go.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Well, at least he got the somewhat funny part right. Right? He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I am kind of a... All right, welcome back to the program. Hour 2 of Firearms Friday continues. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to be joined by Willie, don't call me William, Willie Waffle. And yes, that's his real name. For the first 2 years I talked to him, I thought it was a pseudonym. And then one day I just asked him, I was like, is it? He's like, yep, Willie Waffle. And I said, what, did your parents hate you? And anyway, Willie's a good friend, and he always brings a little bit of levity. It's a great way to start the weekend. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you stick around for the final segment of the show today, because we'll be talking about entertainment news and the movies and the latest from, what's coming up, what's the news thing and what's going on. And it's just a little bit of way to lighten things up, because sometimes we get a little heavy on the show, or a little agitated or angry or whatever. So this is a good way to do it. Speaking of getting angry, let's talk about the ATF for a minute. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the BATF, F Troop, as we used to lovingly call them around here. Well, they're up to their new shenanigans. They are up to their new shenanigans because the president has issued an executive order that all governmental agencies eliminate all their positions related and dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, what's known as DEI. And the ATF, in what is surprisingly a repeat of things that they've done in the past, have decided to buck the president's orders, not by not firing them, but simply by recategorizing the positions of certain people. This was picked up on X. Some enterprising citizen journalists were able to pick this up and find this out. It was picked up by Must Read. It was picked up by Truth About Guns, picked up by Bearing Arms. They all picked up on this. But what they've done is they've decided, instead of heeding the lawful directive of the President of the United States, they've decided to make an end run around what the president wants and what, by extension, what the majority of the country who voted for the president want. What the citizens discovered, these citizen journalists discovered, was that after Trump had ordered the agencies to eliminate all the positions related and dedicated to DEI, the ATF simply changed the job title of its chief diversity officer, Lisa Boykin. Boykin, who was listed on the, and I think the War on Guns, no, I think Bearing Arms. Bearing Arms has got a great screenshot of this from a tweet. Are they still calling him tweets? I guess from a tweet from Gun Owners of America. Gun Owners of America has got a side-by-side screenshot, one from the 20th of January and one from the 22nd of January, showing Lisa Boykin in all her glory amongst the staff of the ATF. And on the 20th, she is listed as, you guessed it, wrong one. I'm looking at the other one. The chief diversity officer for the office of the director, who was Stephen Dettelbach at that point. She was the chief diversity officer on the 20th. 2 days later, on the 22nd, she is now a senior executive for the office of the director. That's it. They changed the name. They just changed the title of her job and go ahead and just did it. Now, here's the thing. The ATF had done this before. A year ago, Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst revealed that the ATF had been reclassifying positions within the agency. Specifically, the ATF was unlawfully classifying administrative positions as law enforcement roles, and that they'd been doing so for decades. It violated the law and wasted millions in taxpayers' dollars. The ATF for years turned a blind eye to classification errors, even when whistleblowers brought it to the management's attention as early as 2018. This maladministration resulted in up to $20 million in overpayments to at least 91 employees who erroneously received enhanced law enforcement salaries and benefits while performing tasks like human resources, administrative, and other non-law enforcement duties. The ATF at that time lost the authority to reclassify their positions in 2020. But since then, they regained the authority. And now they're reclassifying the position of DEI to just some blank executive order. Now, executive director. Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms goes even further, and he digs into the background of this Lisa Boykin, She's now moved again from the DEI to now the office of director. But since there really isn't a director because Dettelbach is gone, there is an interim director, right? So, but what is she exactly doing? What is her job title? What is her responsibility? I mean, she was the DEI officer, and her bio is mostly missing from the internet, but from what Knighton was able to dig up, he said basically she's a glorified HR flack who leveraged that into DEI somewhere along the way. She has no relevant expertise to offer the director of a federal law enforcement agency beyond DEI efforts that were supposed to end with the president. So again, another example of do as we say and not as we do, and you can't tell us what to do, from your friends at the ATF. By the way, who have a no tolerance policy for good faith mistakes made by FFLs. If you make a simple paperwork mistake, even though if it was an honest to God, you didn't dot the T, you didn't cross the I, you put you put initials for the borough instead of the actual writing the borough out. Oh yeah. You put CO instead of county down south. Oh, those are no tolerance. You'll get dinged. They've got no tolerance policies there, but they will ignore the law when it's convenient for them. Something's got to happen there. And then we move over to England, where, of course, we know you can't get guns over there, right? I mean, except some criminals do. And what happened when they removed all the guns from the country? Well, they saw a massive uptick in knife attacks. And that prompted, of course, knife control, despite knives being tools that we use every day. And now they're going to make it even harder to get knives because of this stabbing that happened here recently this last summer. The stabber, who admitted this week to killing young girls last summer, brought the knife that he killed them with from Amazon when he was 17, despite it being illegal to sell knives to people who were under 18. He also admitted to 10 counts of attempted murder and has been referred to the anti-terror program. The government is proposing buyers, a new law now, will now be asked to record a live video and submit an identity document such as a passport to prove their age now to be able to buy a knife. Currently, when someone orders knives on Amazon in the UK, they have to enter their date of birth and are told valid photographic ID with date of birth may also be required upon delivery. The driver will input your year of birth into their device and they may require an ID check. But no, now they want you to take a video of you putting it, like this was going to stop anybody. I mean, it's a knife attack, first of all. A knife attack, okay? And this guy probably could have gone into any restaurant and stolen a butcher knife, but instead he ordered one off Amazon. But that's okay. Don't worry. This will stop him. Put a video up. That'll stop him. All right, we got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Willie Waffle up next.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break. Let me see what we got in here. I had to check my Facebook feed because Dukes wanted more government and more government offices. When did I say that? Oh, I guess when you're saying that I wanted the Office of Second Amendment Protection. I mean, I guess you could say that was that's more government offices, I guess. But I just thought that the delightful irony of the what do they call that? Symmetry, the duality, the symmetry of them having an Office of Gun Violence Prevention and then turning that office into an Office of Second Amendment Protection. That was, that was some delicious irony in there. Delicious. Yeah. All right. You heavy, agitated? Say it isn't so. Brian says, Duke's getting agitated? Never. Are you guys saying that I get agitated sometimes? Is that what you're trying to say? It's a rainy day in Fairbanks, going to ice skate to work. Yeah. Oof. The state is not your friends. How do knives attack anyway? Attach, or I think he meant attack. How do knives attack anyway? Asking for a friend. It's a knife attack. I mean, that's the thing. We saw this in England. I mean, at one point they talked about having chefs having to register all their knives in restaurants, so that if you had a butcher knife that was over 5 or 6 inches long, if you had an 8-inch butcher knife, or what, that you would get. I mean, how is that going to stop anybody who can get a piece of steel and a grinder can make a knife or a machete or a sword or something like that? I mean, not great, but I mean, how is this? And so how is this going to stop it? This kid was 17 when he bought the knife. He was 18 when he committed the crime, but he bought the knife before he was 18. So now they're going to focus on that part of it, right? They're going to focus on that part of it, that he got the knife before he was 18, even though he committed the crime after he was 18. He got the knife when he was 18. So now let's focus on that. That makes total sense. Makes no sense whatsoever in my mind. But this is the same kind of reaction that they've had in England for years. They take the guns away. They take the ability of people away to defend themselves. Knives attack sword. And then later on, of course, there were more guns. Guns were being smuggled across the channel. And then the criminals are having guns. And then they had to start having armed units from, the bobbies. They had to get coppers where they had to have armed response units. Because the criminals had guns, and so they had to gun up. I mean, it's a vicious cycle. All you're doing is the video makes it easier for the state to prosecute. Yeah. Ghost knives. Yeah. Wait a minute. Are you advocating for ghost knives? Both Frank and no, I mean, essentially, right? I mean, give a kid a hard stone and a short piece of steel and a few hours of time, and you can probably whittle that thing away, let alone an actual powered grinder, right? I mean, you could make, how the hell they do it in prison with a toothbrush, right? They shave down the toothbrush. A plastic toothbrush. You could do anything, assault toothbrush. It's an assault toothbrush. It's a shiv, right? You again, it comes to the point to where it's just reduction to the ridiculous. You can't change human nature in that way. I'm not saying you don't make laws. I'm just saying you can't expect that those laws are going to do a lot of the things that you're expecting them to do at this point, which is, I think, or just do something for the sake of doing something. That's where we're at right now. Okay. We're getting ready to hear just checking my phone to see if Willie was calling in, because it'll pick him up here in just a second. We're going to jump on board, and we're going to do the weekend movie review. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so fun. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be great. Chris says you need an ATF clearance to buy a butter knife. Well, yeah, because you could sharpen that butter knife and it could become a real dangerous weapon. Terry says, I'll keep my assault penguin. Thank you very much. You're right. Those assault penguins, hard to keep in the pocket though. That's the big problem. Yeah. I mean, I made little knives when I was a kid. They weren't real good knives. I ground stuff up and made little, go play outside. Go play outside, kid. That's what you do. But it's England, they're just going to do more. I mean, but it's crazy. All it will do will hurt knife sellers in the UK and prevent people from being able, the fact that you can't even carry a pocket knife in some places, that's insane. You know how many times a day I use my pocket knife? It's crazy. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, full, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Let's do it. The weekend comes to a close, or the week comes to Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. I didn't mean to terrify you. No, the weekend is just starting, but the week comes to a close. And now we're bringing Willie Waffle on, who I think just dropped his transmission when I said that, because he was so looking forward to the weekend. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, don't make me miss my weekend. Okay,
No,
no. The week I live for the weekend. The weekend is our time, people. We don't have to worry about the boss. We don't have to worry about all the stress at work. It's our time, man. If you want to sit down and watch that Buffalo Bills game in your undershorts, you could do it because it's your time.
We don't have to worry about the boss. Why do you hate me, man? I'm my own boss. Why do you hate? I can't even get away from my own boss. I'm like, oh, I hate this guy. Anyway, Willie is here to do the entertainment news and the weekend movie reviews. So let's dive right down into it. Where are we going to start here?
Well, let's talk. Okay. We'll start with something I think is a little bit more happy.
Okay.
I don't know about happy, but we are going to have on Thursday night, January 30th. Is that right? Thursday night's the 30th. Yes, Thursday night the 30th. Fire Aid.
Okay.
This is going to be the big benefit concert in Los Angeles to try to help get some money and get some resources to people who are suffering from the fire. And they've lined up a pretty good show. I mean, so in LA, it's going to be at the Intuit Dome and the Kia Forum. If you know LA, they're like practically across the parking lot from each other. And you're going to have Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, Olivia Rodrigo, Rod Stewart, Sting, Jelly Roll. I mean, you're going to have all the really big stars that are out there.
Okay.
And what really is interesting to me is that you're probably going, well, where can I watch this? What channel is it going to be on? It's going to be streaming. It is going to be streaming. Now, it's going to be streaming on just about everything.
Right.
Amazon Prime, Facebook, Apple TV, Paramount Plus, and Peacock. I mean, it's going to be on all of them.
Right. It's going to be
Netflix,
everything.
I mean, all of them.
Netflix, yeah, everything.
And if you want to go someplace and watch it, there are going to be AMC movie theaters that will be playing it. You can buy a ticket, you can go to the movie theater and watch it on the big screen.
Okay. All
So, I think that's kind of interesting. Now, the show at the Kia Forum, which is kind of the smaller venue, that's going to start at 6 p.m. West, which is going to be like, 9 our time. Or 9 my time. I'm on the East Coast.
Five.
That's going to be like, what, 5 for you?
5 p.m. Yeah, 5 p.m. my time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the Intuit Dome show will start like an hour and a half later.
Okay.
And they're going to do a thing where, like if you have tickets to one, they're going to have screens like, when they're changing sets, you'll be able to see what's going on at the other venue and stuff like that. Or just, watch the stream and they're just going to bounce back and forth. So you can see all that. But that is the effort. And the only thing that made me suspicious, I'm just gonna say it, the only thing that made me suspicious, it said proceeds go to the Annenberg Foundation, which will distribute funds to short-term relief efforts. Okay, well, that sounds pretty good. And, quote, long-term initiatives to prevent future fire disasters.
Wait a second.
What initiatives are they talking about?
Well, I mean, wait, and don't the Californian people pay taxes to prevent future fire? Haven't they poured hundreds of millions of dollars into fire prevention in that state, which totally failed? I mean, how is so? Are we bailing out the California taxpayer because their government is inept?
You know what my thought went to? Are they putting this money into some sort of climate change program?
Oh God!
Because that's what it sounded like to me.
It's Hollywood going full Hollywood. I mean, at that point.
Yeah, but is that being a little bit disingenuous about what you're doing with the money? I mean, listen, short-term relief efforts. I think we all understand what that is, right? And I think that's what most people want to support. And then how are you going to prevent the future? Well, there's a lot of things that can be done. Some of them environmentally centered, and some of them just down to clearing the brush and doing things you need to do to manage the forest.
Clear the brush and make sure there's water in the reservoir. I mean, those are pretty simple. I mean,
that might help.
Yeah, that might help. I mean, it's just all right. Well, it's California, man. What are you going to do? Those poor people down there. It's like a hostage situation in California these days. All right. Well, so again, that's on the 30th, Thursday, the 30th, 6 p.m. So 5 p.m. Alaska time and 6:30 p.m. Alaska time. You can find it on whatever streaming service you want. All right. If you want to pay for it, you can go do it. What else we got here?
I'm a little angry.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a little angry. Okay. So, this week Netflix announced they had one of their best quarters ever. They added 18.9 million new subscribers in the last quarter of 2024. Why? Things are looking up. They're doing well financially. So they're going to raise prices.
Of course they are. Of course they're going to raise
They're
prices.
raising prices. Those so-and-sos. Now, this is the one that gets me. This is what's so entertaining to me. The basic package with ads is going to increase by $1. Whoa, wait a minute. Weren't the ads supposed to keep the prices down?
Right. Or I mean,
Did I miss something?
So I got to pay to watch TV now, even with ads. Right, exactly. Well,
Yeah,
that's
this
what's
is cable all over again.
Yeah. And what's worse is that the standard plan, which I think most people like me are on, it went up by almost $2. I mean, I'm like, what?
Yeah, like $1.50. Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. Yeah, actually, maybe it was like $2.50 now that I look at it. But yeah. I mean, either way, I'm with you. That's way too much money.
Yeah.
And then like the premium tier is going up. To add a member onto your plan, that's going up. And just in case you were wondering, those price changes kicked in immediately. Okay,
Right.
So like if you were a new customer and logged on Tuesday night, those were the new prices.
Yeah.
The rest of us, well, your next billing cycle. Oh, that's in a couple of days. Well, in your next billing cycle, you're gonna have higher prices.
Wow,
Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, remember the days when we got on the streaming services to cut the cable costs because the cable costs were so outrageous? I mean, what is it now? I mean, I haven't done the math lately, but I think the last time I looked, I'm up to like $75 or $80 a month in streaming service fees. And now it's time, I guess, to start hacking away at some of those because that makes no sense whatsoever.
It doesn't. And I know you and I have talked about this. This is exactly what we thought would happen. As soon as cable started losing viewers, you knew the streamers were going to make it up and raise prices. Like the big companies want to make sure they don't lose their cash. Man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Netflix did lose money for a long time, so I mean, I guess it's good, but almost 19 million new subscribers, and if they're jacking everything up $1.50 to $2 a thing. So that's an extra 40 million a month right there, just in the, must be good to be king at that point, I guess. All right.
I want to do something like that.
I know.
I'm just going to start jacking up prices.
I'm going to make people pay to listen to this show.
There you go.
I would go broke tomorrow. All right. So Netflix is done, but there's good news for us geeks out there. I guess it's good news. I don't know. Is it good news or not? Tell me about Ryan Gosling.
Know.
Tell me about Ryan Gosling and Star Wars. That's just a sentence that I never thought I would say.
I never thought I would either, but Ryan Gosling is going to start to feel the force, my friends. Yes, the Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Ryan Gosling is in talks to star in a Star Wars movie that is being developed and directed by Sean Levy, who did Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, we don't know what the plot is. We don't know anything about it.
Right.
It doesn't even necessarily have a release date. However, what we do know is that they're going to try to slate it right after the Mandalorian movie comes out in 2026.
Okay.
Because they've got like several development deals for several different Star Wars movies out there. And all of them seem to have fallen apart except this one. So get ready. This is going to be your next one. This is probably going to be your 2027 Star Wars movie. And they said it will not have anything to do with the Skywalkers. This is going to be a whole other thing.
Right.
I'd be curious to see what it is. I'm kind of curious.
I think it will be probably more. I mean, they've had more success lately with the non-trilogy, non-Skywalker Palpatine trilogy things than they have with anything else. I mean, Andor was amazing, Mandalorian has been really great, some of the other ones hit or miss, but I mean, I don't know. I'll watch it because it's Star Wars, and hey, who doesn't love some Star Wars? But now I got to wait 2 years for it to come out. I may be dead by then. I don't know. So it's just, it's a frustrating thing. Give me something new.
No, and I heard a funny story the other day. Not to go too far off, but we're talking about the Mandalorian. I heard a story the other day when they were making season 1 of the Mandalorian. They had to do a scene with a ton of stormtroopers, and they just didn't have enough outfits and enough people to make it look big enough.
Oh, wow.
So they put out the word where they were shooting. They reached out to the local Star Wars club, like Star Wars fan club,
right?
And they said all these guys showed up with their own homemade Star Wars outfits that looked really good, and they had them all in the episode.
That's great. Yeah. There's like, what do they call themselves? The battalion or something? There's like a group, a club.
Is that what okay.
That is like, they've all got their own stormtrooper armor, and it's all period specific, and and everything else. I can't remember, the Imperial Legion. I can't remember what they call themselves, but there's a club where they all get together and they go to they do things like children's hospitals and other things and stuff like that. But it's this, I could see it. You put out the word and you'll have a whole group of volunteers ready to play stormtroopers for you.
Yeah. And that's why I'm excited about Star Wars and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I'm part of that community. Now, granted, I don't have my own Star Wars outfit, but I'm part of loving the story and loving the universe, and I'm so happy that they're going to maybe develop something new for me to embrace.
Yeah, no, I like it. Let's develop the story beyond where we're at, and let's, for the love of God, please do not do another Acolyte, please. I couldn't even get through an episode. That was so much trash. All right,
it was really slow.
Let's go to the movies here. We got about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. Hit me with it. You choose. Where are we going?
All right. I'm going to start with one that we won't get into too much because I want to have a lot more fun with the next one. So, in theaters, directed by Steven Soderbergh, pretty good director. He's become very experimental lately. He just kind of takes projects that are different and new. And this one is definitely in that category. It is called Presence. Now, think about this. It's a ghost story, but it's not a horror ghost story. It's a ghost story told from the point of view of the ghost.
Oh, wow.
In the sense that the camera is the eyes of the ghost.
Oh, wow.
And so we see the ghost in the house as the family moves in, Lucy Liu and others, Lucy Liu being the mom. And we see the ghost following the drama in the family, the strife in the family, the heartbreak that they've gone through, the struggles they're going through. When somebody's trying to hide their phone, the ghost kind of looks at it for us, things like that.
Wow.
And we start to sense what's going on. It's really, really cool.
That's good, guys. I was going to ask, is there a pottery wheel involved in this movie? Because
no.
It's a ghost movie that doesn't have horror. So I mean, well, that sounds like a cool. I mean, we're always crying about not having something new and unique. This one fits the bill.
Oh, absolutely. And it's 3.5 waffles. I really liked it. I think it's amazing to create a character that we never see, that literally we're just looking through the eyes, but we get a sense of the emotions and the fear and what this ghost has kind of been through. Because, they're going to start to find out that there's something going bump around their house.
Oh.
They're going to try to figure out what it might be. And so you get a little bit of background there too. I thought it was really cool.
Okay.
I thought it was really, really cool.
Presence in theaters, 3.5 waffles, which leads us to the new Mel Gibson flick, not starring Mel Gibson, but directed by Mel Gibson. My wife and I were just talking about Apocalypto the other day. She's like, man,
oh yeah.
She was like, I was thinking about that movie. I'm like, oh man, that movie was so good. And I haven't watched it in years, but it was so great. Mel Gibson is an amazing director. This new movie is called Flight Risk in theaters.
That's right. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your movie set in Alaska. Yes, they are in Alaska. So Topher Grace plays this basically mafia accountant,
right,
who's gone on the run. He's hiding out like 90 miles north of Anchorage, and the FBI finds him. Well, actually, not the FBI. The U.S. Marshals find him.
Okay.
And so he cuts a deal. He's going to testify against the mafia boss, but they got to get him to New York as fast as they can. So the first thing they have to do is they have to fly to Anchorage, and they rent a charter plane, and they're on their way. Marky Mark is the pilot, but maybe Marky Mark is not what we think he's supposed to be.
90 miles north of Anchorage is like, just north of like Talkeetna, Trapper Creek area in there. And there's like, I mean, why didn't you just climb in a car and drive to Anchorage? It's not like it's that big a deal. But anyway, okay, I get it. And I love this, it's a movie in Alaska shot in Canada. I mean, that's what it's going to be, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, most of the time they're in the plane. So all you see are snow-covered mountains. They could be any mountains. I don't know.
Right.
But I think first of all, listen. Okay, this is not like a Shakespeare movie. Okay, let's get that out of the way.
This is not Citizen Kane or Metropolis, right?
No. No, but it's fun. I mean, Marky Mark is absolutely insane and is playing the crazy guy just the way he needs to, and he's going to make you laugh, and he's going to make you scared, and you're going to be sitting there wondering, how are these people going to get out of this situation? They're stuck in a plane and they can't fly it.
Right.
And then they throw in a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't want to overdo it. I'm at 3 waffles.
Okay.
I think it's
all
pretty
right.
good.
Well, 3 waffles. Yeah. All right. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Out of time, folks. Be kind, love one another, live well. We got to go. We'll see you on Monday. Sorry, I looked down and I was like, man, all of a sudden we're out of time. Yeah. Well, when was the last time we saw Marky Mark play a bad guy? Mark Wahlberg.
It's been a while.
It's been quite a while since he played. And
it's been a while.
He can be menacing. I mean, he really can be like kind of psychotic and menacing, which, that's kind of cool. I dig that. Being in it's never good when the movies are. I mean, what was the last one they filmed? On Deadly Ground here, I think, was the last movie that got filmed here. But everything, everything else is like. What did I watch for nostalgia's sake the other day? What's the one? The Proposal? Is that the one with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock?
Oh, and Sandra Bullock?
Yeah.
Was that Canada or was that Alaska?
No, that was Canada. It was Canada.
Oh, okay.
They filmed it all in Canada, and I was just laughing so hard because I'm just like, okay. But I did have to laugh at the reactions of the not the reactions, but the attitudes of a lot of the people who supposedly were from Alaska, because there's a lot of people like that. It's like, we just don't care, whatever, kind of thing, which I loved. I thought that was funny. But anyway, yeah, it'd be nice to have an Alaskan movie actually filmed in Alaska, but we know how that works around here.
Yeah, and that's sad because I think it's a beautiful area. You and I have talked about it. I would love to go on some sort of wilderness kind of ice boat tour, not ice boat tour, but like touring glacier areas cruise. Up there, glacier cruise. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I keep telling you, if you get up here, we'll get you on a glacier boat, and
all right,
we'll feed you to some bears. It'll be fun. It'll be fantastic.
Oh yeah, I can't outrun the bears.
Yeah.
If we see the bears, I'm done.
Yeah. Well,
okay. It's been a good life. I loved you all. Hi, how are you doing? How you doing, Yogi?
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing you. I'm bringing you so that because I could probably run faster than you, and we'll get. All right, well, 3 waffles. That's not. I mean, for a Marky Mark movie, that's Mark Wahlberg. That's not bad.
And that's the thing. It gets a little bit too soap opera-y with the twists and turns, but I want to know how it ends. I want to see how those twists and turns turn out. I mean, it draws you in, and you get the thriller and you get the mystery, and there's even a couple of voices that are kind of cameo voices, and one of them I recognized. I'm pretty sure it was Leah Remini. I'm not sure, but like the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm listening. I'm like, I know that voice. I know that. So I'm going to look that up. I haven't looked it up because I've been busy since I saw the movie. But I got to look because I think it was her. I really think it was.
Well, in Mark Wahlberg, this is the one where he's like bald, right? Where he's like got the
yes.
I'm just like, that's not a look you expect from Mark Wahlberg, but balding. He plays a balding psychotic. That's all great. That's all good. All right. Well, 3 waffles for that. What do we got next week, Willie? Before we let you go,
next week we have Dog Man. They've put together a police officer and a dog, and they've made him into a cartoon character.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
I'm not sure either.
But maybe we should talk about some of the streams next week instead. Because what? All right, Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Although I don't know why I keep saying his website. I don't think you've updated your website in 5 years. But anyway, it's dead. Don't forget. Don't go to the website. Don't go to the website. Don't go to Barbie.com. I mean, don't whatever it is. All right, my friend. We will see you next week. Thanks for coming on board.
All right, see you then.
Folks, we're out of time. Monday, it'll be me and you. Have a great weekend. Be kind, love one another, live well.
shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.